The Forgotten Kingdom. There was a time when the idea of God's kingdom stirred hearts. Not just the promise of heaven, but something alive, something here. A kingdom not made of stone or swords, but of purpose, of power, of presence. But somewhere along the line, we forgot. We traded the thunder of the eternal for the static of the everyday. We started thinking of the kingdom as a faraway dream, a place we'll go someday, instead of something we are called to build today. And yet, the words still echo, unchanged, undiluted, "Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven." Those weren't poetic lines. They weren't metaphors. They were a call to action. Because if God's kingdom is only in heaven, then why are we still here? What if we've misunderstood our mission? What if the church isn't supposed to be a shelter from the world, but an invasion force sent into it? Imagine a world where darkness retreats because light walked in. Not angels. Not prophets. Ordinary people. Like you. Like me. People who know the voice of God, people who carry the fire of heaven in their bones, people who no longer want to wait for the kingdom to come, because they're ready to bring it. This is not a message about religion. It's not about rules, or rituals, or stained glass windows. This is about a revolution of the soul. A kingdom that's rising, unseen by the eyes, but undeniable to the heart. And the question is not if it will come. The question is, will it come through you? Because the kingdom doesn't arrive with fanfare. It doesn't fall from the clouds. It comes when a believer stands up. In their home. In their school. In their city. When someone chooses holiness over comfort. When someone tells the truth, when it would be easier to stay silent. When someone risks everything to rescue one more soul from the edge. This is how it begins. This is how the kingdom comes. And this is your invitation. A voice in the silence. It didn't come with thunder. There was no lightning bolt. No dramatic dream. No angel at the end of the bed. Just silence. And then, something within that silence, a whisper. It wasn't loud, but it was unmistakable. A quiet weight that pressed into the soul, not with fear, but with fire. He had opened a book, an old, dusty Bible that had been sitting on a shelf, ignored for years. No one forced him. No one preached at him. He simply opened it. And what happened next would mark him forever. The pages weren't just ink on paper. They pulsed. They breathed. They spoke, straight into the hidden corners of his life. Into places even he had forgotten. It felt like the words were reading him. Every verse like a mirror, every chapter like a conversation. And the deeper he read, the louder the silence became, not outside, but inside. A divine hush. As if heaven was holding its breath, waiting for him to answer. He began to weep. Not from sadness. Not from guilt. But from the undeniable sense that he was not alone. That God, the real, living God, was there with him, in that room, in that moment. And that voice, the one no one else could hear, it spoke not in sentences, but in impressions, in convictions, in clarity. It didn't shout. It didn't argue. It simply was. And that night, he realized something many never do: God is still speaking. Not just to prophets, not just in pulpits, but to anyone who dares to be still enough to listen. You don't need a sign in the sky. You don't need a miracle to fall from heaven. Sometimes all it takes is an open heart, an open Bible, and the courage to sit in silence until the whisper comes. Because God often chooses the quietest places to say the loudest thing. The book that spoke back. It wasn't just a book anymore. At first, it felt ordinary: paper, ink, a black leather cover, worn at the edges. The kind of thing you'd expect to find collecting dust on a shelf, a relic from another time. But when he opened it, everything changed. The words didn't stay on the page. They rose, alive, breathing, reaching into him like hands made of light. It was as if the book had been waiting. Waiting for this moment. Waiting for him. Every sentence landed like thunder in his chest. Not in a way that hurt, but in a way that healed. A voice, ancient and eternal, was speaking not to the world in general, but directly to him. It told him things he didn't know he needed to hear. Things about who he really was. About where he came from. About what he was created for. It exposed the darkness he had tried to ignore, but it didn't shame him. It revealed the cracks in his foundation, but it didn't crush him. Instead, it offered something so rare, so sacred, hope. Hope that he wasn't alone. Hope that his life meant more than just survival. Hope that maybe, just maybe, he was part of something far bigger. The more he read, the more he wept. Tears soaked the pages. Not from sorrow, but from the overwhelming sense of truth colliding with his soul. He didn't need a preacher to explain it. He didn't need a theology degree. He just needed honesty, and the humility to let the word do its work. Because this book, this holy book, was not written to be studied from a distance. It was written to enter you. To pierce and to mend. To challenge and to comfort. To destroy lies, and replace them with unshakable truth. Somehow, without even realizing it, he began to speak to God, and more than that, he realized God was speaking back. Not in the way people might expect. There were no trumpets. No burning bush. No clouds of fire. Just words. Holy, ancient words that refused to sit quietly on the page. They moved. They struck. They healed. And they answered the question every soul eventually asks, why am I here? And through that living word, he discovered something he never expected. He was called. He was seen. He was loved. And he had a part to play in a kingdom that was coming to earth, one heartbeat at a time. God still speaks. People say God is silent now. That the days of miracles are over. That he used to speak, in burning bushes, in parted seas, in thunder and fire. But the truth is, God never stopped speaking. We just stopped listening. He speaks, in ways the world no longer expects. One night, a man dreamed he was running. Fields stretched endlessly in every direction. He didn't know why, or from what. But the fear was real. He ran and ran, barefoot and breathless, until he fell, exhausted. And just before waking, a voice whispered, clear as daylight, be still. I am with you. He thought it was just a dream, until that very morning, his life changed forever. Out of nowhere, strangers knocked on his door. Unexpected visitors. An interruption, or maybe, a divine appointment. One brought a message. Another offered help. A third simply listened. And as they spoke, he remembered the dream. The same voice. The same peace. Coincidence? Not a chance. Later that week, while walking through a store, he overheard a conversation. Two men, arguing about faith. One, dismissive. The other, passionate, speaking of purpose, of forgiveness, of a God who still answers prayer. The man didn't know them. They weren't speaking to him. And yet, they were. Because God's voice isn't limited to sermons. It's not trapped behind church walls. It doesn't only echo from altars or sacred mountains. Sometimes it comes through the ordinary. A line in a movie. A lyric in a song. A child's innocent question. A homeless man's stare. Sometimes, even through someone completely broken, God will speak. And it's not always comfortable. Sometimes, he confronts. Other times, he corrects. But always, he reaches. Not with condemnation, but with invitation. Come closer. Wake up. You're not forgotten. In a world filled with noise, the divine whisper can feel almost drowned out. But it's still there. In the stillness. In the moments between chaos. The question isn't whether God is speaking. The question is, will you recognize his voice when he does? Because the God of Abraham, the God of David, the God of Jesus Christ, is still speaking. And maybe, just maybe, he's speaking to you, right? Chosen before the world began. Before your first breath, before your first thought, before your body was formed or your name was whispered, you were chosen. Not randomly. Not accidentally. Not as a backup plan. You were chosen, deliberately, specifically, eternally. Long before this world had its first sunrise, before mountains rose from oceans, before stars were flung into space like diamonds, your name was already known in heaven. The creator of galaxies looked across eternity, and saw you. You weren't born just to survive, to pay bills, chase success, and fade away. You weren't made for noise and distractions. You weren't placed here by fate or chance. You were sent. On assignment. With purpose. With power. Heaven doesn't make extras. God doesn't do, just in case. Every soul is designed with intention, and yours was marked by destiny. You are not forgotten. You are not invisible. You are not late to the story. You were written into it before it even began. And yet, the world does everything it can to make you forget that. It tells you you're just a number. That your past disqualifies you. That your pain makes you unworthy. That you missed your chance. But the truth? God's purpose for you was never based on your perfection. It was always rooted in his love. He doesn't need your resume. He needs your yes. He doesn't expect you to be flawless, just faithful. And deep inside, you've felt it, haven't you? That ache. That quiet conviction. That sense there's more to life than this. That feeling isn't guilt. It's not delusion. It's your calling, echoing from eternity. There's a mission with your name on it. There are people waiting on your obedience. There's darkness that only your light can touch. This world doesn't just need more good people. It needs people who know why they're here. People like you. So the next time you question your worth, the next time you wonder if your life matters, remember this: you were chosen. Not after you proved yourself. Not once you cleaned up. But before the world began. And the one who chose you is still calling you. More than a pew-warmer, faith was never meant to be a seat you sit in. It was meant to be a fire you carry. Somewhere along the way, Christianity became comfortable. Safe. Predictable. An hour on Sunday. A few verses now and then. A cross around the neck, but no cross on the back. But following Jesus was never supposed to be passive. It was never meant to be observed from a pew, as if salvation were a show and heaven a reward for good attendance. No. This is war. And you were born again to fight. Not with fists. Not with hate. But with truth. With love. With light. The church is not a monastery. It was never meant to hide behind stone walls and stained glass. It was meant to storm the gates of hell and pull people out of the fire. But too many have forgotten that. They sit. They nod. They go home unchanged. And darkness grows bolder while the saints grow silent. But you weren't saved to be silent. You weren't rescued to be neutral. You weren't redeemed just to be comfortable while the world around you breaks. You carry something eternal. And the world is desperate to see it. There are people drowning in hopelessness, and you know the one who walks on water. There are souls lost in the dark, and you've been given a light that never goes out. So why hide it? You are more than a churchgoer. More than a seat filler. More than a name on a roster. You are a soldier. A servant. A messenger of the kingdom of God. And there is no audience in the body of Christ. Only participants. Only warriors. Only laborers in a harvest that's ready now. The question is, will you get up? Will you leave the comfort of routine and step into the calling that was written for you? Because the time for spectators is over. And the kingdom needs you, not someday, but now. The kingdom assignment. You weren't just saved from something. You were saved for something. The moment you said yes to Christ, you were enlisted. Not into religion. Not into routine. But into a mission that stretches across eternity. The kingdom of God is not a passive force. It doesn't drift in on clouds. It doesn't just happen because we wish it would. It advances, through obedience. Through sacrifice. Through people like you. Every believer has an assignment. Not just pastors. Not just missionaries. Everyone. There is no such thing as a kingdom spectator. Some are called to speak. Some are called to serve. Some are called to build. Some are called to give. But all are called to go. Go into your workplace. Go into your school. Go into your family, your community, your digital world, carrying the message of a God who saves. The kingdom doesn't grow by accident. It grows when the people of God decide that their lives are no longer their own. It grows when someone chooses purpose over comfort. Mission over safety. Surrender over control. Maybe you've been waiting for a sign. But here it is, you have breath. You have faith. You have time. That's all God needs to do something eternal through you. Don't let fear paralyze your purpose. Don't let routine silence your mission. The world doesn't need more silent Christians. It needs warriors of grace. Messengers of truth. Ambassadors of a kingdom that's not of this world, but is breaking into it through you. So take the assignment. Own it. Live it. The King is calling. Will you answer? When the church fell asleep, darkness doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't knock before entering. It moves quietly, confidently, into any space where the light has gone dim. And when the church closes its eyes, evil doesn't hesitate. It fills the vacuum. It takes the ground we refuse to stand on. It speaks into the silence we left behind. For generations, the church shaped culture. It set the moral compass. It spoke truth, even when it cost everything. But somewhere along the way, the fire began to fade. We got comfortable. We got busy. We got quiet. And while we sang in our sanctuaries, darkness crept into our cities, our families, our schools, our minds. It didn't happen all at once. It happened when we stopped watching. When we stopped praying. When we stopped speaking up. When the church fell asleep, the enemy didn't. He moved. Strategically. Relentlessly. Boldly. And now we look around, wondering why the world feels upside down. Why truth sounds offensive. Why purity is mocked. Why evil is celebrated. The answer is simple: we fell asleep. Not everyone. Not all at once. But enough. Enough to let the darkness breathe. Enough to let the lies spread. Enough to let hearts grow cold. But it's not too late. Because even a flicker of light can scatter the deepest night. Even a whisper of truth can wake the soul. And God is still calling His people to rise. To open their eyes. To remember who they are. We were never meant to sleep through this war. So wake up, church. Your silence has power. Your prayers have weight. Your life has meaning. And the world cannot afford for you to close your eyes any longer. Lives that preach without words. Not every sermon is spoken. Some are lived. Quietly. Consistently. Powerfully. In a crowded hallway at school, one girl stands out. Not because she's loud. Not because she's flashy. But because she carries herself with purpose. She walks with confidence, not the kind that needs attention, but the kind that knows who she belongs to. While others chase trends, she chooses modesty. While others blend in, she dares to be different. No one gave her a microphone. No one put her on a stage. But every step she takes says something loud and clear: there is another way. Across town, in an office buzzing with noise, a man works diligently. He doesn't cut corners. He doesn't gossip. He treats everyone, even the difficult ones, with respect. He doesn't preach at his co-workers. He doesn't quote scripture at the water cooler. But his life, his choices, his peace, they speak. When crisis hits, he's the one they turn to. Because even if they can't explain it, they see something different in him. Something unshakable. And then there's the single mom, tired but faithful. She prays over her kids at night. She sings worship songs in the kitchen. She loves deeply, forgives quickly, and holds on to hope when everything tells her to quit. Her life is a testimony. Not because it's easy, but because it's anchored. These people, they don't wear halos. They don't walk on water. But they carry light. And light doesn't need to shout to be seen. Their quiet obedience is louder than any sermon. Their kindness is sharper than any argument. Their integrity is a weapon against the lies of this world. This is what it means to live set apart. To let your life become the message. To preach, without a single word. The world is watching, more than it's listening. And sometimes, the greatest witness is a life that reflects the heart of God in the small, everyday moments. So don't underestimate your example. You may never stand behind a pulpit, but your life might be the only gospel someone ever reads. Living holy in a twisted culture. The pressure is constant. Fit in. Blend in. Don't stand out. Say what's acceptable. Do what's expected. Follow the crowd, even when it's lost. That's the message of the world. And it's loud. But Jesus speaks a different word: be holy, as I am holy. Not trendy. Not popular. Holy. It's not a word people like anymore. It feels outdated. Too rigid. Too serious. But holiness isn't about rules. It's about identity. It's about reflecting the character of the God who made you. And that means, you won't always fit in. Because holiness refuses to compromise. It chooses truth when lies are easier. It chooses purity when temptation whispers. It chooses love when hatred feels justified. In a culture twisted by confusion, where right is called wrong and wrong is celebrated as freedom, holiness shines like a spotlight. It's not self-righteous. It's not proud. It's courageous. To live holy is to live awake, to see clearly in a world that's gone blind. And yes, it will cost you. You might lose popularity. You might be misunderstood. You might be mocked. But you'll gain something the world can't offer: peace that lasts, truth that anchors, purpose that burns like fire. You were never meant to blend in. You were meant to stand out. Not for your glory, but for His. So if you feel the pressure to conform, remember this: you were set apart. Not to judge the world, but to show it a better way. Not to retreat from culture, but to redeem it. This is your calling: to live holy. To live bold. To live free. Not because you're better, but because you're His. Digital discipleship. There was a time when the internet felt like chaos. A swirling storm of noise, distraction, and darkness. Endless opinions. Senseless content. A place where truth got buried beneath the loudest lie. But what if that wasn't the end of the story? What if God saw this digital wilderness, and planted you right in the middle of it? Not to escape it, but to invade it. Not to be influenced, but to influence. Because the internet, for all its flaws, has become one of the greatest tools for the gospel in human history. You no longer need a stage. You have a screen. You don't need a crowd. You have a connection. You don't need to be famous. You just need to be faithful. One post. One story. One song. One prayer shared online can reach thousands. Maybe millions. You used to have to stand on a street corner and hope someone would stop to listen. Now, with a single click, you can speak into the heart of someone 10,000 miles away. Your social media page? That's your pulpit. Your YouTube channel? That's your mission field. Your inbox? That's your ministry. And make no mistake, God is using it. People are hungry. Not for entertainment. Not for trends. But for truth. For something real. For someone real. They are scrolling through pain. Scrolling through loneliness. Scrolling through questions they don't even know how to ask. And when they find you, will they find Jesus? Will they see light? Will they hear hope? You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be present. You just have to say, "Here I am, Lord, use this." Because even in a digital world, God still moves. So don't waste your platform on vanity, on comparison, on distraction. Use it for the kingdom. Use it for the broken. Use it for Him. This is not just social media. It's spiritual territory. And it's time to claim it for Christ. This is war. You might not see it. You might not feel it. But the moment you chose to follow Christ, you stepped onto a battlefield. Not against people. Not against politics. Not against flesh and blood. But against darkness. Against deception. Against an enemy that never sleeps, never stops, never plays fair. And whether you realize it or not, you're in the fight. You don't get to sit this one out. There are no neutral corners in a spiritual war. But here's the truth the enemy hopes you never believe: you've already been armed. You've been given weapons. Not bullets. Not blades. But something far more powerful: truth. Faith. Righteousness. Prayer. The Word of God, sharper than any sword. These aren't ideas. They're armor. And when you wear them, hell trembles. The devil isn't afraid of a Christian who blends in. He's afraid of one who stands up. One who prays like it matters. One who worships like heaven is listening. One who refuses to surrender. So don't fall asleep in the trenches. Don't get distracted by comfort. Don't let fear hold your sword. This isn't the time to retreat. This is the time to advance. To speak truth where lies have reigned. To shine light where darkness has settled. To fight, not for victory, but from victory. Because the battle was won at the cross. The tomb is empty. Jesus reigns. But until He returns, we hold the line. We push forward. We rescue the lost. We protect the weak. We fight the good fight of faith. So rise up, warrior. Pick up your weapons. This is not a drill. This is not a metaphor. This is war. And the kingdom is worth fighting for. Who will you bring? One day, this life will end. The lights will fade. The noise will quiet. The curtain will fall. And you will stand before God. Not as a group. Not with your church. Not with your pastor. Alone. Face to face with the one who gave you breath, the one who numbered your days, the one who wrote your name in eternity. And in that holy moment, he won't ask how much money you made. He won't ask how big your house was. He won't ask how many followers you had. He will ask something far more eternal. What did you do with the life I gave you? And maybe even more haunting. Who did you bring with you? Because the gospel was never meant to stop with you. It was meant to flow through you. You weren't just saved for heaven, you were sent to earth, to bring others with you. But how many did you tell? How many did you invite? How many did you pray for, weep for, fight for? Or did you live quietly, comfortably, while your neighbors drowned in silence? There's a man who sat on his porch for years. He watched his Christian neighbors walk past him, every Sunday morning, dressed for church. Not once did they stop. Not once did they invite him in. He was waiting. And they never came. So he came on his own. Alone. Years later, he would say, I always wondered if they thought I wasn't worth saving. We assume people don't want to hear. We assume someone else will tell them. We assume there's more time. But one day, the time will run out. And the question will still stand, who will be there because of you? Your story matters. Your voice matters. Your invitation might be the one that changes everything for someone. So don't live this life with empty hands. Don't stand before God with a heart full of regrets and no one beside you. Start now. Pray for them. Love them. Tell them. And when that day comes, when the heavens part, and eternity begins, may you stand with joy, and hear these words, well done. You didn't come alone. The man on the porch. He sat there almost every day. Same time. Same spot. A quiet man. A familiar face in the neighborhood. He didn't ask for much, just watched the world pass by from his front porch. People waved. Some smiled. A few nodded politely on their way to church. Dressed in their Sunday best, Bibles in hand, he watched them go, week after week, year after year. They never stopped. Never asked his name. Never said, would you like to come with us? He wasn't bitter. He didn't blame them. But deep down, he wondered. Did they see me? Did they think I didn't care? Did they ever stop to think? I was waiting. Because he was. Not for a sign. Not for a miracle. Just for someone to invite him. He didn't need a sermon. He needed a friend. Someone to notice. Someone to care. Years passed. The porch grew older. So did he. And then one Sunday, he came. Alone. Walked through the church doors with trembling hands and a heart full of questions. No one had brought him. He brought himself. Later, when he told his story, his voice cracked. I always hoped someone would ask. They never did. That man could live next door to you. He could be your coworker, your cousin, the cashier you see every week. And he might be waiting. Watching. Wondering if anyone will care enough to ask the simple question, would you like to come with me? We don't need to be theologians. We don't need to have all the answers. We just need to notice the one sitting on the porch. Because one invitation can open the door to eternity. And one missed opportunity might be the thing we regret forever. Empty hands before the throne. The end will come. Not in fear. Not in chaos. But in perfect, unstoppable truth. One by one, we will stand before the throne. Not as titles. Not as roles. Not as reputations. Just souls, naked before the God who gave us life. And in that holy silence, He will ask the question we've spent our lives answering, whether we knew it or not: what did you do with the life I gave you? He won't be asking about perfection. Not about your achievements, your income, or how well you followed the rules. He'll be looking at your hands. Are they full, of prayers lifted, of burdens carried, of people reached, of souls saved? Or will they be empty? No one will be able to speak for you. No excuses will matter. No blame will fit. Only truth. And the truth will be this: did you live for yourself, or did you live for me? There's a parable Jesus told about servants given talents. Some multiplied them. One buried his. When the master returned, he didn't praise the one who played it safe. He called him wicked, lazy, unfaithful. And he took what little he had left. God is not looking for passive faith. He's looking for hearts that burn. The world is full of need. The broken sit beside us. The lost walk past us. The hurting scroll through our feeds. And while we wait for the kingdom to come, God is waiting for us to bring it. To live it. To reveal it. Because this life, your one, short, fragile life, is your only chance to make eternal impact. And when the final breath comes, when your race is done, and you fall to your knees before the throne, will your hands be trembling, but full? Will there be names, people you prayed for, loved, led to Christ? Will there be stories of sacrifice, of boldness, of faith that left a mark? Or will you say, I thought I had more time? You don't. This is the time. This is the call. Don't stand before the King with empty hands. He gave everything for you. Give everything back.